comparative studies on Sutra. The question here is attitude and intellect, as well as a sense of commitment or faith, devotion, whatever you like to call, brought together, that the various sutras and the teachings of Buddha in written form that we could understand as up-to-date situation rather than historical document as such. And I think it is very interesting that for us to get into our own everyday life situation at the same time, that how we handle ourselves when we write letters to friends, our teacher, our relatives, and ourselves. That there is a sense of that you're involved with the area of communication in a very solid and a very definite level. You may be freaked out at the time, or feels depressing, or feel that there is nothing much to say in terms of composing a letter to your friend or relative or whatever. But nevertheless, there's some sense of continuity takes place. When we talk about a sutra, we are talking in terms of how Buddha communicated to us that the sutra could become an up-to-date living situation and practical situation for everyone to work with. That is enormous achievement. It's fantastic, and we might feel that we are intimidated by such enormous achievement. But at the same time, the sutra situation is also continued in relating with how we relate with the teachings at the same time. Sutra literally means conference, junction. Tibetan word for sutra is ndo, which means junction, conference. Usually it is very descriptive in terms of our own experience is concerned, that experience of openness and also experience of concern to life situations, sense of salvation, sense of attainment of enlightenment, whatever we have concerned ourselves that brought us together into the practicing of the teachings. Sense of a concern. So the junction here is that of the openness and a wide vision, aerial point of vision, seeing things as it is, as it were, and seeing things as literally that meet with your particular demand in the sense of particular situation that you have, either that you have a sense of confusion, a sense of need for clarification, whatever that you're experiencing currently, presently at that particular point. So, working together from that point of view, sense of openness from that point of view. So, on the whole, we could say that the purpose and meaning of Sutra is a meeting point of vision and practicality, which is saying prajna and upaya are working together. That's a particular point, as far as the sutra is concerned. That certain particular sutra, in fact all of them, are compiled after the death of the Buddha, Mahaparinirvana for Buddha, by a council of disciples brought together and compiled them with a certain particular record, a certain particular discussion. And they are often named after the place and named after the situation and named after the people. And for instance, the Lanka Avtara Sutra is named after the situation where Buddha was in the country of the Lankas, Ceylon. That particular discourse that took place are named after that. It is quite different from just naming the title of your book that just about to publish. You're going to send it to your publisher and you have to come up with a catchy title. But it's just simply named. So quite similarly we could have a sutra called Buddha Avtara Sutra. And sometimes the sutra is named after the people who are involved with the basic conversation. And named after that, the discussion of the person who involved with a particular practice, a particular study, such as the Ongli Mala Sutra, that the Indian warrior who had become suddenly extremely aggressive, that he's been murdering everybody, and his last person that he would like to murder is his mother and the Buddha, which makes 2,000 people finally. And he collected everybody's thumbs as mala, which he wears around his neck. So he tried to chase his mother, and failing that, mother took refuge to the Buddha, and he then chased Buddha. And all discussions revolved around about that aggression, with enormous insight that Unglimala had, as well as his aggression is problematic. So that was another example of a sutra. And then another type of sutra that is the purely and simply relating with the subject matter, that the topic is discussed, and therefore sutra is named after that. Such as like Prajna Paramita Hridaya is the Heart Sutra, is popularly known as. And also another type of sutra is that what sutra should be functioning, what the sutra particularly be doing, what is the purpose of that particular sutra. Such as like Vajra Chetaka Sutra or Diamond Sutra is known as popularly Diamond Cutting Sutra, which is based on the idea of cutting dualistic notion of ego. That is the purpose of the sutra, is to cut through. So the basic point of sutras are from that way experiencing sense of true perception within oneself, that how you're relating with the teaching and how you're relating with your teacher at the same time. The question here is how we could assimilate 108 volumes of sutras, the discourses, the descriptions of the Buddha's teaching, in presently 3 languages. Maybe 4. And all of those languages are written in Oriental language, either Sanskrit or Pali or Chinese, Japanese, whatever. And the only sutras that be translated into the English language that we have so far is maybe 2% of the basic sutras. Maybe less, actually. Eight point of the 108 sutras be translated in the English language. And so far as the understanding of the sutra is concerned, that we have made relationship with that very precisely and very definitely, that the main sutras are Prajnaparamita Sutra, and some of the Theravadan traditions of the Nikayas be translated, and particularly meditation manuals of sutras such as like the Satipatthana Sutta, and sutras like that be translated into the English language with the commentaries and so forth. That we in the West feel extremely stupid, say the least, that not having enough open understanding to Buddhism, Buddha Dharma, that we have just fragment of those 108 volumes, just fragment of a few chapters in one big volume has been translated. And how on earth we're going to learn the rest of it? And how are we going to translate them? How are we going to learn the languages? It feels very bad and doesn't feel particularly hopeful that we can't do the whole thing. At least one person couldn't do that, and you need 100 great masters who are maybe involved with each volume thoroughly and fully, but each volume contains a lot of sutras at the same time. So maybe we need 1,000 great masters, gurus, exponents, who are specialized on one particular sutra of that particular volume, can only show us the way, tell us what Buddha had said the rest of his life, that we have no ideas about that. And in the Western language, as far as translation is concerned, that trying to collect or learn sutras without being a linguistic scholar seemed to be absolutely hopeless. And ironically, it's terrible. In fact, it is impossible to understand what Buddha had said. And we don't even have a notion of nirvana. It's one simple word that's been over and over and over used by all kinds of people. But we really don't know what nirvana is all about. What does mean nirvana? Tell us. Well, it means freedom, salvation. Sure. But what else means? What does it mean freedom? What does it mean salvation? Well, everything's going to be okay. We don't have to go through the hassle of life anymore. That we begin to feel that we are just barely touching on the one little corner, very tiny, weeny little corner of fragmented, or even that little piece of sand, which created a part of a gigantic stupa, which is beyond our imagination, but we are just approaching the whole thing from a miniature insect's point of view, not having any comprehension of anything at all, none whatsoever, that what Buddha had said, what he taught. Not that we are stupidly paralyzed, but we don't have opportunities and resources, materials, that a lot of books got lost and a lot of books haven't translated. So we have no hope from that point of view. And what we are been discussing so far throughout the path class, so-called path class, is concerned, we've been just trying to study one corner of that particular statue or stupa. Maybe we'll be studying the foundations, and maybe we'll be mowing the lawn of that particular ground where the statues be built. Maybe we haven't touched the actual statue at all, actual stupa at all. Yet we feel that we are doing something here, and we feel pretty good, we're learning, and things being meaningful and inspiring and so forth. So how are we going to handle that situation? If we want to understand the real meaning of comparative sutra, that we got dive into an enormous ocean that's much bigger than any ocean on earth. Which we can't even imagine what it will be like. Because we only have seen the ocean on earth, we think it's fantastically big, gigantic, enormous. That we could sail across, that we could throw nuclear tests in all kinds of places, and we begin to feel that our ocean, that what we have is enormous, gigantic. But from that point of view, and in the teachings of Buddha is concerned, that particular ocean we have on earth is the puddle, the water that is collected in a cow's footprint. As far as the basic sutra is concerned, that is trying to bring together that junction of intellect, experience, and skillful actions together. That the teachings of Buddha are not particularly sensational, for that matter not particularly uplifting, but it is so frightening at the same time, because it doesn't give us any room to operate our own little tricks that we have. And once you begin to hear the teachings of Buddha, that you feel that you become belittled, that his point of view is so enormous, gigantic, that things what we're trying to operate in our own little humble spiritual scenes, what we little things what we do in insignificant little style, that we feel that we will be bewildered, that our little projects automatically collapse. And so finally we could say that teachings of Buddha is sky falling on our head. That enormous approach, enormous mind that's operating in a greater style, in a greater understanding, that we do our little trip here, our little trip there, becomes a somewhat meaningless, trivial, and adolescent situation. That the point of enlightenment and the teachings of Buddha at this point is to make us to inspire, to grow up in that level, grow up that level of greater thinking, enlightened situation. At the same time, if you try to desire that great, whatever it is, that we are back to square one, we are back to our little world. So, I hope tonight I'm able to put you off enough so that you don't seek for enlightenment and give in, give up, whatever. Well, time for discussion. In a very solid and very definite level, you may be freaked out at the time, or feels depressing, or feel that there is nothing much to say in terms of composing a letter to your friend or relative or whatever. The question here is attitude and intellect, as well as instinct that for us to get into our own everyday life situation at the same time, that how we handle ourselves when we write letters to friends, our teacher, our relatives, and ourselves. That there is a sense of that you're involved with the area of communication, a sense of commitment or faith, devotion, whatever you like to call, brought together, that the various sutras and the teachings of Buddha in written form, that we could understand as up-to-date situation rather than historical document as such. And I think it is very interesting comparative studies on Sutra